Playing on a Budget is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the best Magic the Gathering singles and sealed retailer on the internet, GatheringMagic.com, your #1 source for Magic the Gathering news and content, and RogueDeckBuilder.com, my personal channel filled with innovative and entertaining Magic the Gathering rogue brews. Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com with another episode of Playing on a Budget. This week we are going to try a blue-red Ghostfire archetype to see how well it performs in the metagame. Right now, the Ghostfire Blade and the best combo with the Ghostfire Blade is going to be hooking it up to a Vile Aggregate. This card is a star 5, and the star reads the number of colorless creatures you control. So at minimum, it's a 1/5 trample ingest. For 3 mana, which I do like the body on it. It can basically block most things in the format. There are very few things that it can't at least block and survive, like Siege Rhino or Anafenza, or even a lot of the red-green landfalls. It's going to be hard to push through 5 damage. They'll have to waste multiple spells to get through it. And then it can become quite powerful itself with just a few cards. So the obvious thing is just Ghostfire Blade. Ghostfire Blade will give it +3/+2. And then it'll read itself, so it'll be a 4/5 trample for just 3 mana, hooking it up to the Ghostfire Blade. And then later game, when you have like cards like Blight Herder that puts in 4 guys for 1, and Pia and Kiran Nalaar that will add 2 more colorless creatures, Hangarback Walker that hopefully will add a bunch of Thopter tokens, and Whirler Rogue that at least has 2 more Thopter tokens that come into play. The Vile Aggregate will get huge. A lot of times when in the playtesting of this, it was easily a 7/5 or an 8/5. It also has the added ability for ingest, so it can actually hook up the Blight Herder for just a few swings. Blight Herder needs 2 cards to process to go online to get the tokens. So the other card in here that wants to use multiple colorless creatures is Ruination Guide. Ruination Guide gives +1/+0 to all other colorless creatures you control. So all of your Thopter tokens will be 2/1 flyers. All of your Eldrazi signs will be 2/1s. And it's just a very, very powerful card right now. It is the Anthem or the Lord effect for this deck. And so a few of the other cards, like another added benefit of this also has ingest on the Ruination Guide. So if you get in for a few swings, then the Blight Herder will be easy to cast. So I'm actually thinking we might want to go up in count of Blight Herder. It's all depending on how well the deck performs. If we can reliably get 2 cards in our opponent's exile zone, then I might go up the count of Blight Herders. For now, with our low land count of just 24 cards, I thought that Blight Herder at 2 it's really competing with Pia and Kiran Nalaar and Whirler Rogue. So we have to really evaluate which is the most powerful of these cards, and then we will decide the numbers accordingly. So a few other fun things in this deck is we have a Herald of Kozilek. The only reason I'm running 2 is because that's the maximum potential that the Herald of Kozilek can really reduce. I mean, I guess you could say it reduces Hangarback and Blight Herder if you have even more than those. But basically, if you have 1 out, it's going to reduce all of your converted mana cost colorless spells by 1, which is basically everything in our deck. So it'll be 2 mana Ruination Guides, free Ghostfire Blades, the Horribly Awry will just cost the 1 blue, etc., etc. So if you have 2 of them out, that's why it reduces by 2. We do have a lot of these 2 mana cost creatures. So this is another card I'm messing around with to see if we want to run more. And if it works out well, if it ends up being a decent card, then we will definitely go up in the count. Maybe cut the Eldrazi Skyspawners. We'll have to wait and see. So on our first turn, the reason we're not running any like salvage drones or 1/2 ingest guys is we're going to be casting a Ghostfire Blade or a Wild Slash or keeping that mana for Horribly Awry or a Hangarback for 2 on our first and second turn. We also do have some tap lands through the Swiftwater Cliffs and the Evolving Wilds, so we're not going to be doing much on our first couple turns. We're going to then be just trying to slam 3 and 4 drops for the rest of the game. So we do need ways to take care of that early aggression. We have 3 of Wild Slashes, we have the Horribly Awry, and we have a lot more Fiery Impulses and another Wild Slash in the sideboard. But before we go over the complete sideboard tech, let's bring up the deck list brought to you by our sponsors, CoolStuffInc.com. And it right now, with the way I have it built, is around $95. That's why we can't include that 4th Hangarback Walker. The Wild Slashes are $250 a piece, which is very expensive for an uncommon, but the heavy play of the card is what's made the price increase a lot. We have Thopter Spy Networks in the sideboard, which are $1 a piece. The Shivan Reefs, which are $250, not bad. It's a very inexpensive land for decks that have, like right now standard, the mana base in some particular decks is around the $300 to $400 mark, and with playing like 10 to 14 fetch lands and whatnot. So this deck's mana base is incredibly inexpensive. It's the Hangarback Walkers that are taking up the huge bulk of our budget, which is $53.97. Everything else is around 50 cents to a couple bucks, and the Exquisite Firecraft is $5, which is a sideboard card I'll talk about here in a second. So let's pull back up the sideboard. We have Exquisite Firecraft basically in here for Gideon. Now, Vile Aggregates can push through Gideon tokens, but Exquisite Firecraft is really your answer for Gideon. You can cast it for 3 mana after the turn. Gideon does get value, it puts a 2/2 out, but then you can Exquisite Firecraft, redirect to Gideon, and get rid of the Gideon. We also have Disdainful Strokes mainly in here for Gideon, and Languish. They also can hit Siege Rhinos and Dragonlord Ojutais, Crux of Fates, Tragic Arrogance. There's plenty of things that, and with the Wild Slashes and the Horribly Awry, Disdainful Strokes is our other glue. So against early-based decks, we'll have some play against them. We'll be able to remove their early creatures. Against later-based decks, we'll be able to Disdainful Stroke things and hopefully have a threat out at that point. I have another Negate in here against Gideon, Languish, etc., etc. We have Thopter Spy Network in here against the control matchups. The reason why I don't really like Thopter Spy Network as much as like a more heavy artifact deck is it can only be activated off Hangarback Walker, Whirler Rogue, Pia and Kiran Nalaar, and Ghostfire Blade, so it's not as reliable as you'd think. So there's just 2 of them in the sideboard. 2 more Horribly Awry. We have so many creature-based decks that will bring these in. This will be our creature-based package here. We'll bring in some Wild Slashes, Firing Posts, Horribly Awry, and Touch of the Voids, and I think that we'll do very well against landfall post-sideboard. We have no way to really gain life against them, but we have lots of ways to stall out the board with Herald of Kozilek and Vile Aggregates, and even like Eldrazi Skyspawners put 2 guys out, and I think that we have a pretty good plan against that deck. So this is when testing it did okay. This was a nice 50-50 deck. There was definitely some matchups that were in our favor, and there's matchups that were absolutely not in our favor. So we'll have to wait and see how well it performs, and we'll get onto that. This is Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Playing on a Budget. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Gathering Magic and check out our Playing on a Budget playlist, which contains every episode. Thanks again, and hope to see you soon.